Our story today is the first part of the book by John Bunyan, Pilgrims Progress. Many of you have heard it, many of you have read it, but this is in the modern English, because if we read it in the old 1700 age English, we probably wouldn't understand it very well. So I'm going to be reading. I don't know whether I'll get through the whole book, but we'll start and see how we do. So, this is the first stage. As I walked through the wilderness of this world, I came upon a certain place with a den, and I lay down to sleep. I fell asleep and dreamed. In my dream, I saw a man clothed with rags, standing in a certain place, with his face turned from his own house. In his hand he held a book, and he bore a great burden upon his back. For my iniquities are gone over my head, as a heavy burden they weigh too much for me. From Psalm 38, verse 4. He opened the book, and as he read, he wept and trembled. Unable to contain his emotions any longer, he broke out with a mournful cry, "What should I do? How long, O Lord, will I call for help, and you will not hear? I cry out to you violence, yet you do not save. Why do you make me see iniquity, and cause me to look on wickedness? Yes, destruction and violence are before me. Strife exists and contention arises." In the midst of this dilemma, he returned home, but he restrained himself as he pondered his true feelings. At first, even his wife and children were unaware of his distress, but he grew more and more troubled. Finally, his wife asked, "What's the matter?" He could no longer stay silent. He told his wife and children what he had learned from the book and how it troubled his mind. "Dear," he said to his wife, "and you, my children, I love you dearly." And he looked from one to another. "A burden lies heavily upon me." He took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "You see, I've learned that our city will be burned with fire from heaven. I'm afraid we are all doomed. Even you, my sweet children, unless I can find some way of escape. But I haven't found any way." His wife and children didn't believe a word of what he had said, and they didn't believe it to be true, and they looked at him as if he'd lost his mind. They hoped a good night's sleep would settle his frenzied thoughts. With this hope in mind, his family hurried him off to bed. But his mind remained just as troubled in the night as it was during the day. He tossed and turned with tears and sighs until the sky brightened with the dawn. His family looked at him with concern. They could see he hadn't slept. "It's worse and worse." He started to talk to them again about what he had learned in the book. At first they tried to console him, but as he went on, their faces hardened with anger. Finally they'd had enough, and answered him gruffly with harsh words. Sometimes they even ridiculed him, and other times they scolded him. Finally they just ignored him. It saddened him to see them like this. In fact, he pitied them. He'd often go to his bedroom to pray for them as a way to soothe his misery, or he'd walk alone through fields while reading or praying. One day he walked in the fields while reading his book, and he became so distressed that he burst out crying. "What should I do to be saved?" He said. "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" He was quoting from the book of Acts. He looked this way and that as if he would run, but instead he stood still. He didn't know which way to go. As he stood there, a man named Evangelist walked up to him and asked, "Why are you crying?" He answered, "Sir, I've read in this book I'm holding that I'm condemned to die, and after that comes judgment. And I find that I'm not willing to do the first, nor able to do the second." Then Evangelist said, "Why aren't you willing to die, since this life is riddled with so many evils?" The man answered, "Because I fear that this burden upon my back will sink me lower than the grave, and I shall fall into Tophet or Gehenna." "And sir," the man said, "if I'm not fit to go to prison, then I am not fit to go from judgment to execution." And distress wrinkled his brow. "The thoughts of these things make me cry." Evangelist studied the man. "If this is your condition, why are you standing here still?" The man shrugged. "Because I don't know where to go." Evangelist handed him a parchment roll, and on it were the words, "Flee from the wrath to come." The man read it and looked carefully at Evangelist. "Where must I flee to?" Evangelist pointed his finger over a very wide field. "Do you see the wicket gate over there in the distance?" The man squinted. "No." Evangelist asked, "Do you see the shining light in the distance?" "I think I do." Evangelist said, "Keep that light in your eye and go up directly to it. If you do, you will see the gate. Upon arrival at the gate, when you knock, you will be told what you should do." In my dream, the man began to run. He hadn't run far from his own door when his wife and children noticed what he was doing and cried out to him, "Come back, come home." The man put his fingers in his ears and ran on. Life, life, eternal life. He didn't turn to look at his home or family behind him, but fled towards the middle of the plain. His neighbors also came out to see him run. The man continued to run even though some of his neighbors mocked him. Others threatened him, and some joined with his family and cried for him to return. Among those neighbors calling for him to come home, two decided to grab him and forcibly drag him back. The name of the one was Obstinate, and the name of the other Pliable. The man had run a good distance ahead of them, but they were determined to pursue him. They chased after him, and a short time later they overtook him. "Neighbors, why have you come after me?" the man asked as he caught his breath. "We've come after you to persuade you to go back with us." The man shook his head. "I can no longer live in the city of destruction. I know I was born there and have lived my whole life there, but I've seen the truth of living and dying there. Sooner or later you will sink lower than the grave, into a place that burns with fire and brimstone. Don't go back. Come with me," the man pleaded with his neighbors. "What?" Obstinate looked at him, eyes wide with surprise. "And leave our friends and our comforts behind?" "Yes," Christian said, for that was the man's name. "All you leave behind isn't worthy to be compared with the tiniest portion of that which I'm seeking to enjoy. If you come with me, you'll hold it yourself and fare as well as me, because where I go there is more than enough. Come with me and you'll see I'm speaking the truth." Obstinate's brows knit into furrows of confusion. "What are the things you seek, since you leave all the world to find them?" "I seek an incorruptible inheritance," Christian answered. "It's pure and untarnished, and it never fades. To be given at the appointed time to those who diligently seek it." He extended the book toward Obstinate. "Read it if you will, in my book." Obstinate held up his hand and with a flick of his wrist said, "Away with your book. Will you go back with us or not?" Christian shook his head. "No, I will not. I have laid my hand to the plough and will not look back." Obstinate motioned with a sweeping gesture toward his neighbor Pliable to join him. "Come, Pliable, let's turn around and go home without him." He shrugged. There's a company of these crazy-headed, vain, and conceited men who think they're wiser in their own eyes than 7 men. Pliable didn't move. He said, "Don't berate him. If what the good Christian says is true, the things he seeks after are far better than the things that hold our attention. I'm inclined to go with him." Obstinate threw his arms in the air. "What? Another fool! Listen to me and go back. Who knows where such a brain-sick fellow will lead you? Go back, he pleaded. "It's the wise thing to do." "No," Christian said to Obstinate. "Come with your neighbor, Pliable. The things I spoke of are real, plus there are many more glories too. If you don't believe me, Pliable, read this book." He extended the book toward Pliable this time. "You'll find truth in what it says, and it's all confirmed by the blood of him who made it." Pliable looked from Christian to Obstinate. "Well, Obstinate, I think I'll go along with this good man and cast my lot with him." He turned his attention to Christian. "My good companion, do you know the way to this desired place?" "I've been directed by a man whose name is Evangelist to hurry to a little gate where we shall receive instructions about the way." Pliable found that to be agreeable. "Come then, good neighbor, let's be going." The two of them headed off together while Obstinate stood in his place. "I'm going back home," he called after them. "I will not be the companion of such misled, weird fellows." In my dream, when Obstinate had gone back, Christian and Pliable walked along the plain of ease, and Christian talked with his traveling companion. "So how do you feel, Pliable?" he asked. "I am so glad you were convinced to come. And if Obstinate had felt what I have felt of powers and terrors of what is yet unseen, then I'm sure he would not have turned his back on us as he did." Pliable hungered to know more. "Since it is just the two of us, Christian, tell me more. What are the things you spoke of, and how are they to be enjoyed? Where are we going?" Christian struggled to put his thoughts into words. "It's easier to comprehend them with my mind than to explain them verbally, but since you're asking, I will read of them in my book." Pliable pointed at the book. "So you think the words of your book are absolutely true?" Christian nodded. "Without any doubt. Yes, of course. It was made by him who cannot lie." "Very well. Try to tell me of these things. What are they?" Christian motioned with his hand as he explained. "There's an endless kingdom to be inhabited, and everlasting life to be given us, in order that we may live in that kingdom forever." "Brilliant! And what else?" "Well, there are crowns of glory to be given us, and garments that will make us shine like the sun in the skies of heaven." "That's a very pleasant news. What else?" "There shall be no more crying, nor sorrow, for he who owns the place will wipe all tears from our eyes." "And who will be there with us?" Pliable wondered out loud. "There will be seraphim and cherubim, creatures that will dazzle your eyes. You'll also meet with thousands and 10,000s who have gone before us to that place. Everyone there will be loving and holy, with everyone walking about in the sight of God and standing in his presence with everlasting acceptance. In a word, there we shall see the elders with their golden crowns, and the holy virgins with their golden harps. And we'll see men who were cut into pieces by the world, burnt in flames, eaten of beasts, drowned in the seas, all because of their love for the Lord of the place. All will be well and clothed with immortality as with a garment." Just hearing all of this is enough to overwhelm me, but are these things to be enjoyed? And how is it we can get to share in all of this? "The Lord, the governor of the country, has recorded these things in this book." Christian patted the book for emphasis. "The fact is, if we are truly willing to have it, he will give to us freely." Pliable's face brightened. "Well, my good companion, I'm glad to hear of all these things. Come on, let's pick up our pace." Christian let out a long sigh. "I cannot go any faster because of this burden on my back." Now in my dream, as the two of them ended this talk, they drew near to a very muddy bog in the midst of the plain, but they didn't see it. In quick order they both fell into the mire. The name of the marshy slough was Despond. Here they wallowed for a time until they were totally covered with the slime and mud. Because of the burden on his back, Christian began to sink. Pliable asked, "Ah, neighbor Christian, where are you now?" "Truthfully, I don't know." Pliable felt offended, and his face grew red. "Is this the happiness you told me about? If we're stuck in the likes of this dirty goo right at the start, what can we expect between this," he said, as he lifted his arms and let them slap the mud, "and our journey's end? If I get out of this mess with my life, you'll be going on alone to possess the brave country, for I will return home." With this he struggled desperately and finally climbed out of the mire on the side of the bog nearest to his house. Once out, he didn't even turn to help Christian. In fact, he didn't even say goodbye. Instead, he walked away covered in filth and headed straight toward his house. Christian never saw him again, so he was left to tumble in the slough of despond alone. But Christian struggled through the muck little by little toward the side of the bog furthest from his house. the side next to the wicket gate. He finally reached that side, but he couldn't get out because of the burden he carried on his back. But in my dream, a man came to him whose name was Help. "What are you doing here?" Help asked Christian. "Sir, I was encouraged to go this way by a man called Evangelist." Christian pointed a muddy finger toward the wicket gate. "He directed me to that gate over there so I might escape the wrath to come, and as I headed toward it, I fell in here." And he flicked mud from his fingertips into the mire. "But why did you look for the steps?" Help asked. "We were talking, and I never thought to look for stairs." Help reached out toward Christian, then give me your hand. Christian reached out and grabbed his hand, and Help pulled him out of the mucky mire and set him upon solid ground. "Now go on your way." In my dream, I stepped toward the man who plucked Christian out of the slough and asked, "Sir, why isn't this hazard fixed so poor travelers can cross in safely, since it's on the way from the city of destruction to the gate over there?" "This miry slough is a place that can't be repaired. It's a low-lying place where the scum and filth that comes with the conviction of sin drain into it and collect as the traveling sinner becomes aware of his lost condition. It is the fears, doubts, and discouraging apprehensions about oneself that arise in his soul. The king is not happy that this place remains so bad. Based on the direction offered by His Majesty's surveyors, his workers have also attended to this patch of ground for more than 2,000 years, to see if it could possibly be fixed." Sadness filled Help's eyes. "To my knowledge, at least 20,000 cartloads have been swallowed up by this mire and dirt. Cartloads of millions of wholesome instructions have been delivered at all seasons from all around the king's dominion. It's said that these instructions are made of the best materials in order to create good, solid ground in this place, if it could be fixed. But this is the Slough of Despond, and it will remain so even after they have done all they can. By the direction of the lawgiver, there are certain good and substantial steps placed through the very midst of this bog to offer a sure way, but this place spews out so much filth and changes with the weather, so that these steps are hardly seen, and often when men find the steps, they grow dizzy from their own guilt, and their feet miss the steps, and they become covered and stained with mud. But the steps are there, and the ground is good once they get in at the gate." Now in my dream, by this time Pliable had arrived home to his house and his neighbors and came to visit him. Some of them called him a wise man for coming back, and some called him a fool for endangering his life by going with Christian in the first place. Others just made fun of him and mocked him for his cowardliness. They said if I had started this adventure like you did, I wouldn't have been so timid as to quit after just a few difficulties. Pliable sat cringing among them at these words. But after a little time passed, he gained some confidence, and when his neighbors saw his regained confidence, they turned against poor Christian instead and ridiculed him behind his back. However, even though they were no longer talking about him, their words against Christian concerned Pliable. Now as Christian walked alone, he spotted a man in the distance crossing the field to meet him. Eventually their paths met, and the gentleman introduced himself as Mr. Worldly Wiseman. He lived in the town of Carnal Policy, which was a large town close to Christian's hometown. Worldly Wiseman acted as if he had foreknowledge of Christian's leaving the city of destruction, as if the leaving of destruction was a topic of much gossip, not only in the town where he lived, but also in other places where the news seemed to have spread. Because Worldly Wiseman had an inkling of his coming, he had spotted Christian's arduous approach, and when Worldly Wiseman observed Christian's sighs and groans and the like, he engaged him in sympathetic conversation. "Greetings, good fellow. Where are you travelling, burdened in this manner?" "Burdened manner, indeed. I think it's as large a burden as any poor creature ever had to carry," Christian said. "And where am I going, you ask? Let me tell you, sir. I'm on my way to that distant wicket gate. Christian nodded in the direction of his goal. For there, I've been told, I will gain entrance to the place that will rid me of my heavy burden. Do you have a wife and children? Worldly Wiseman asked. Christian nodded. Yes, I do. But I'm so weighed down by this cumbersome burden that I can no longer enjoy their company like I used to. In fact, it makes me feel more like I don't even have a family. Worldly Wiseman studied Christian for a moment. Will you listen to me if I give you advice? Christian considered his answer. If it's good advice, I will, because truthfully, I'm in need of some wise advice. Worldly Wiseman said, Then I would advise you to get rid of that burden as fast as you can, because as long as you have it, you'll never have peace of mind or be able to enjoy the blessings God has bestowed on you. That's exactly what I want to do, to be rid of this heavy burden, but I can't get rid of it on my own, and I don't know of any man in our country who can take it off my shoulders, so I'm headed in this direction, as I told you, for that very purpose, to get rid of my burden. So who told you to go this way to get rid of your burden? Worldly Wiseman asked. A man who to me appeared to be a very great and honorable person. As I remembered, his name is Evangelist. Worldly Wiseman's face puckered into a sour expression. I most certainly condemn this man for his advice. There isn't a more dangerous and troublesome way in the world to travel than the way he has told you to go. You'll certainly learn this the hard way if you listen to his advice. In fact, by the looks of things, I'd say you've already experienced some of this difficulty. Isn't that the dirt and grime of the Slough of Despond? I can see it on you. What you don't realize is that the Slough is just the beginning of the sorrows you'll experience if you listen to that man. Other pilgrims who have gone that way could very well tell you the truth of that experience. Listen to me, I'm older and more experienced than you. If you continue in this direction, you're likely to experience wearisomeness, painfulness, hunger, perils, nakedness, swords, lions, dragons, darkness, and in a word, death. And who knows what else? Worldly Wiseman looked Christian directly in the eye and said, These things are certainly true and have been confirmed by the testimonies of many pilgrims just like yourself. So why should a man so carelessly place himself in danger by listening to a stranger like this man Evangelist? You don't understand, sir, Christian replied. This burden on my back is more terrible to me than all the things you have mentioned. He shook his head. No, I've given this thought, and I don't care what perils I meet along the way, as long as eventually I can be delivered from my burden. The older man asked, How did you come by your burden in the first place? Christian raised the book in his hand. By reading this book. Worldly Wiseman's lips thinned with disgust. Ha! I thought so. The same thing has happened to you as to other weak men who meddled with things too high for them. They're suddenly distracted and confused, just like you, and it's humiliating. I can see the same thing has happened to you, and the problem is they turn to desperate measures to obtain what they know very little about. Oh, no, Christian replied. I know what I would obtain. I'd receive relief from my heavy burden. But why do you seek relief this way, by putting yourself in the path of so many dangers to get it? If you had enough patience to listen to me, I could tell you how to find what you're looking for without all the risks you'll run into. You see, the remedy I'm suggesting is nearby, and instead of dangers, it offers safety, friendship, and contentment. Christian eagerly looked at Worldly Wiseman. Please, sir, tell me this secret. Why, the answer lies just a short distance away in the village named Morality. There, ask after a gentleman by the name of Legality. He's a very judicious man, and a man of very good name. He has skill to help men off with such burdens as yours from their shoulders. In fact, according to what I know, he has helped many pilgrims a great deal in this way. Besides that, he has the skill to cure those who are somewhat overwrought and irrational about their burdens. You can go to him and be helped right away. His house isn't quite a mile from here, and if he isn't home himself, he has a son who is friendly and easy to get along with, whose name is Civility. He can assist you in the same way as his father. You can be relieved of your burden there. A broad smile softened his features. "If you decide not to go back to your former home, which I would recommend, you can send for your wife and children to come here to this village. Here we have suitable houses just waiting for someone to move into them, and they're reasonably priced. The living standards here are good, though a little expensive, but high quality. We have everything you need for a happy life. Plus, along with an environment you can enjoy, you'd be in the company of honest neighbors who are financially secure and live a good life." Christian was torn as what to do, but decided if what worldly wisdom said was true, then his advice was the wisest to take. "Sir," he said, "how do I find my way to this honest man's house?" And we will continue our story another day.